Betting against entrepreneurs who are changing the world has never been a profitable endeavor. Chamath Palihapitiya. For those who don't know Chamath, he is best known as one of the top growth executives at Meta, back when it used to be called Facebook, and started an investment firm called Social Capital, where his goal is to use money as a way to invest in some of the most transformative companies in the world. And he's also the host of the All In podcast, where him, Jason Calacanis, David Sachs, and David Friedberg talk about issues surrounding politics, business, and the markets to entertain and educate their viewers. Chamath has been a massive influence in my life, and this is exactly why in this week's episode of MasterTalk, I'm going to be breaking down his communication style so that you can learn from him as well. Hey everyone, Brent here from MasterTalk, on your go-to channel to mastering your talk. And today, we're talking about Chamath Palihapitiya. So let's get started. Number one, creating powerful insights about the world requires an obsessive level of focus. What I love about Chamath the most is how thoughtful he is, not just in the context of investing, but multiple areas of life. He talks about his dysfunctional family growing up as a kid. He talks about companies you should be investing in, what's going on in the markets. He can even have a conversation about politics. He's very well versed in his thought process. And the only way to do that is to constantly challenge why people believe in something and what people believe about something. And when you start to ask why, you can start to figure out what is the underlying context behind those ideas so that they can be changed. And that's why during the pandemic, Chamath was very vocal about the way that governments were distributing cash back to their citizens. He thought it was wrong that most of that money went to companies, but he also took the time to explain to the general public why most of the money was going to companies wrongfully so. And it's that thought process, that willingness to go against the grain, that makes him special. And that's what I encourage all of you to do with your ideas. Constantly challenge why people believe something about their industry and why your ideas are different in the same way that I started to challenge the industry on ideas around communication. Number two, be a straight shooter. One thing I love about Chamath's communication style is when he talks about his ideas, he doesn't create any fluff. He's always straight to the point. And this can be offensive to some, but to the people who want to hear his ideas, it's absolutely perfect because we want Chamath's point of view. And what I also enjoy about Chamath's views is that because he's not trying to make money through his media companies and his All In podcast directly anyways, the advantage is that he just speaks his truth. Whereas a lot of news channels, they're incentivized to tell the story that will make them the most money because that's the main way that they generate revenue. Whereas in Chamath's case, it actually comes from his investments, so he's not incentivized to lie to the general public. And that also comes back to what are you willing to stand for and what is the message that you actually want to convey to your audience. And it's clear with Chamath's intention that he wants to share the ideas that he believes are the truth, even if sometimes those ideas do not benefit him financially. And that's really the decision, the intention that he sets before he jumps on a podcast, before he gets on the news, before he shares an idea that sticks. He's very thorough about the level of research that he does, but he also is conscious about the actions and the consequences of him sharing those ideas with the world. So acknowledge that so that when it's time for you to share, you share them with boldness and conviction like Chamath does. And finally, number three, you don't need all the answers because they're not all necessary. Chamath is the best example of this. He always talks about the imposter syndrome that he feels even today. And by the way, the guy's a billionaire. How can you not have imposter syndrome? I don't get it. It's like impossible for you to feel that. Yet, He still does to this day, and he's very vocal about it, which is reassuring for the rest of us because we make so much excuses as to whether or not we should share an idea. Whereas Chamath's perspective is share what you know in the context that helps other people and figure the rest out along the way, especially in the context of his All In podcast, where he's constantly discussing current events. Of course, he's not going to be the perfect idea of what it means to be a thought leader because the news is always evolving. It's always changing. There's no way Chamath can be a 10 out of 10 expert, but regardless, he's still willing to show up. He's still willing to have a conversation, even if his besties, as he calls them, disagree with him on the show. He's still willing to learn, get the right argument, and more importantly, correct himself whenever he makes a big mistake. And he's done that multiple times in the All In podcast. So what's our excuse? If he's willing to put himself out there, if he's willing to share ideas that matter, what are we waiting for? We don't need to have all the answers. We just need to have the answer to one question. And as long as we have one answer, we just need to focus on sharing it, and eventually more answers will flow towards us and the brand that we want to create for others. Betting against entrepreneurs has never been a profitable endeavor, especially when they're trying to change the world. The biggest lesson I learned from Chamath listening to his countless interviews is this: if you are not an imposter, you're not playing big enough. Because naturally, if you want to do something that transforms the world, it means that nobody else has done it before. So congratulations, you are the imposter. You are the oddball. You are the person that's trying to achieve something that 99.999% of the human population isn't willing to dare. And for that, I say congratulations and keep going. As always, if you enjoyed this week's episode of MasterTalk, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well to see more videos like this. And if you know one person who's a fan of Chamath's work, be sure to send them this video so that they'll be one step closer to transforming the future. Take care, everyone.